Hey fam, how you doing? Welcome to another video. And in this video, the main focus is going to be on the triadic color scheme. So in this one, I picked red, green, and blue for this. So I'm going to have green rim lights, and then the key lights, the primary lights, is going to be blue, and then he's going to have. I had this idea, you know when someone is holding like a sniper, like he pointing a sniper at you, that red light, not sure what you call it, but I'm going to be measuring that as well. And he's in like a really dark surrounding, so the reds are going to be really bright, and they're going to like bounce around and all that. So yeah, I think it's going to look cool. So I'm just adding a bit of a green tint to the background, and then adding like some lights, like this light source. At least I'm indicating like a light source coming from above and behind him. And yeah, for the foreground, for the main character, I created another layer and just filled it with a simple blue, like just a blue tint. I think it was a multiply layer. And right now I'm just creating the base lighting for the sniper lights, right? So I was just experimenting, playing around with some textures, trying to figure out what would look nice. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Now I'm just adding in more details to the rim lights. Like it's going to have the rim lights are they're going to be really bright. So I'm adding in some whites, some more desaturated, brighter colors to the edges of the rim light, so it makes it look like it's glowing. Yeah, and I'm using the airbrush to. I'm starting to render the laser lights now with the airbrush. I'm just experimenting, trying to figure out what will look good. And then yeah, I started painting in some of the reflections from the red lights hitting his mask. So it's going to bounce off, like the bottom of the top of his skull to his eyes, like the eyebrow section. That's going to reflect some light as well. You can see I'm just creating some shapes with the lasso tool, trying to experiment. I really didn't get this right off the bat, so I had to experiment, try to figure out like the shapes. Yeah, so I'm just selecting the shapes with the lasso tool and then painting in the red colors. And how you do this, like to create that gradient, how you do that is that when you create a shape, you paint in, like you look for the parts that are going to reflect the most lights, right? So from that edge, you start from the edge and then you adjust your brush so you adjust the airbrush so it's not bigger than the entire selection, and then you just painting from that point. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. So, and of course the other lighting on his chest plates, I'm just thinking about the sections that are going to, I'm like dividing it into like sections, right? So I pick each section and then just render out the entire thing. I can select the entire shape, I select the bigger shapes and then go into the smaller shapes, right? So you, like for this section, you select the wider shape, and then after that the bat's symbol on his chest, right? He's going to have like different shapes as well. So I just go in and render those separately, create new selections and render them appropriately. So that's what I'm doing right now, creating smaller shapes adding some lights, creating smaller shapes, adding some lights. And then I'm also like, I'll be deleting some. I'll select some areas and then erase some of the lights to create some shadows and all that. And this is it's kind of, the bat symbol is metallic, so it's going to have a lot of reflections even in the darker areas. So that's what I'm doing right now. So it looks kind of like metal. And then I'm trying to add in some texture as well. So after adding the lights, I just pick a texture brush that has like some noise on it, just to give his bat suit some this meat or matte texture, right? So and then like his neck as well, some of the lights are going to bounce to that area, so that's what I'm just doing. And the edges as well, like the edges of the breastplates are going to reflect some lights. I'm just using the lights to create a sense of shape, right? Change in direction. So that's what I'm doing now. Yeah, I'm continuing to add some of the lights from his head bouncing off to his face as well. So I started with these lights without the other colors of his skin, just to focus on how the lights will bounce around. And of course the room lighting, I'm now adding on a glue dodge layer. I'm now adding the glow effects with the airbrush, so it looks like it's glowing. It has that bloom effect. Yeah, and now I'm selecting his mask. I'm going to render the primary light source. I'm going to be having like brighter values on the mask, starting from the mask. So you can see that I'm filling in from the topmost part of the mask is going to catch more lights. So I'm making sure those parts are brighter, and then you can see the lines on his mask, like those shapes. I'm going to be selecting them and adding more lights so that the details are more apparent. So it's like they catch more lights. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And then selecting more areas on his face that are going to be catching lights, because the key lights is coming from above but in front of him. So I just think of the areas on the suit and on his body that are going to catch the most lights, and I start from there. You can see his neck, that like part of his cape, like a collar kind of. You can see that edge that is like catching the most lights, the edge where it like faces upward towards the lights the most. So I just use the airbrush to add in more light as well. That's what I'm just doing. And then his shoulder, they call shoulder pads, whatever they are kind of metallic. So I also I added that, some of those bright those bright shapes, to show that it's reflecting a lot of lights. That's how metal is. That's how you render metal. Again, I'm using a texture brush to just add in some textures to the matte surfaces. Yeah, I'm basically just using lights to bring out the forms. Remember what I said the other time, start from the bigger form you select the entire shape of what you want to render, and then you use the airbrush to just create change of direction, change of lights direction to create the shapes. And then I'm selecting areas that are going to be like shadows. They're going to sound like shadows around them. I'm painting in black, trying to make them darker. And now select the entire breastplate, the overall thing, and then again the whole selecting the entire shape thing, and then you use the airbrush to just fill in make it brighter. Then I'm doing the same with the other parts of your suit, and then I'm also using the lasso tool to create shapes and fill in the shadows, the cast shadows. And for the metallic parts, I'm just adding in more reflections, more lights. On his breastplate now you can see the edges as well. I'm trying to make the edges apparent, by adding lights to the areas that are going to reflect lights. So that's how you bring out the shapes. The areas that are facing towards the lights, those little areas that turning away from the lights or turning towards the lights, you want to render them and make sure that light is hitting those areas. That's how you bring out the forms. And then I'm doing the same thing with the rest of his arm. Making more selections, again adding more detail, adding some shadows and all that, some ambient occlusion. And then I'm adjusting the base color of the bat sign on his chest to make it stand out, to make it look different from the rest of the costume, because the material is actually different. I'm just adding more detail to the arms. You can see how, remember how we looked at first, you can see how detailed the whole image is now, after rendering all these separate shapes and all of that. Now I created another layer, I think underneath, and I think it was a blue multiply layer, right? So it just has a blue tint to it, because remember I said the base color is going to be the primary light source is going to be blue, right? So, and then I just added the other layer underneath, above, and I'm adding the color of your skin, right? So, and then of course I'm creating other sections, selecting his lip and some of the muscles of the face, and then just trying to render those forms. His cheek, top of his lip, and then of course I'm going to be creating selections and adding some cast shadows from his mask, making some cast shadows, and then rendering his eyes and all that. You can see how everything just works, because I know the color scheme I went for. I didn't just pick random colors. You just have to do some research read books on color theory and all that, so you know exactly what colors go together and what colors just don't go together, right? So now I'm adding more blue to to show that the light source is blue. So adding more blue with more detail, going into the shapes of his mask that are going to be reflecting that are facing towards that top blue light source when I'm rendering those forms. You can see the ears too, how I selected that edge and then just added some blue into it to just create some separation. Like, and then his shoulders too, the area that's going to catch more light, I'm just using the airbrush to render that. And then yeah, that collar area is kind of like metallic, so I just added in some highlights, you know, so that edge that's catching the most light there. And of course the other parts of it is costume, you know, again selecting the entire shapes, adding the blue lights, and then going into the smaller shapes and bringing those forms out. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm also trying to make the mask look a bit metallic as well, so I'm just adding some more highlights. You know, metal is very reflective, so it's going to have a lot of, you know, highlights around. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then the bounce lights from the sniper lights, I don't know how well it looks though, but I don't know, I think it gets the idea across. Yeah, I think I'm trying to make the lights, the bounce lights, a bit more saturated. Yeah, adding some, I think, color dodge around the red sniper lights just to make it glow a little bit. Then I'm adding some more blue to his face. Right, so we know that, you know, the blue light is affecting every area, right? So I'm not going to exclude his face. Yeah, you can see how everything is coming together now. Everything is coming together now. And then some bounce lights on his chin and the lower part of his face from his collar, from the rest of his suit. Yeah, I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the video. Yeah.